The Broncos 2021 schedule is out, and we're here to break it down. Sidney Jones, Eric Galala, I am Phil Milani, here to give our big takeaways on what we think of this slate of games for the Broncos. Sidney, let's start with you. Maybe we got to talk about the fact that there's only one primetime game for the Orange and Blue this year.
Yeah, Phil, that was the first thing I saw too. Because anytime I get our schedule, that's the first thing I look for our primetime games. Only one, like you mentioned, Thursday night game against the Browns in week 7. And unfortunately, that breaks Denver's streak of having at least one Monday night football game at least once each season since 1992, I think, which that'll be a bummer. But that'll be a really fun game. It'll be fun for Vic Fangio and this defense going up against Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, and obviously a family reunion for Bradley Chubb there.
Yeah, that Browns team is definitely loaded. That's going to be a tough one. But yeah, just one primetime game. I mean, what's going on here? The Broncos, 29 consecutive seasons, like you mentioned there, Sydney, snapped that hit had been an NFL best. Eric, what do you think? What's going on here?
Well, I just think there's some uncertainty at the quarterback position. Obviously, Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater are going to battle it out. And then it's just the reality of not having made the playoffs for the last 5 seasons. And you look around the league and you see some of these, these shining quarterbacks, whether it's a Patrick Mahomes, a Kyler Murray. Obviously, you've got a new crop that includes Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. I mean, those are the guys that kind of appeal to the masses, and doesn't mean the Broncos can't have a really good year and still push for the playoffs, but it does mean that maybe you miss out on some of these primetime opportunities.
And maybe they'll be flexed in later on in the season if they do prove to be a quality team. They could always sneak in on a Sunday night football matchup there later on in the season. Eric, you mentioned the playoffs there for the Broncos to be in that conversation. They've got to get out to a pretty good start. They've struggled under Vic Fangio in September. Sydney, what did you think about the start of the season? Obviously, the Broncos opening up with the Giants.
I honestly really liked the start of our season. We go Giants, Jags, and then Jets. So I think we have a really great chance of going 3-0, which would be huge because the past couple seasons we haven't started that way. I think last year was 0-3, and then the season before that was 0-4. But not ideal to go on the road back to back to open the season, especially on the East Coast, since we'll be traveling back and forth and the time change. But a fun one to start the season. Obviously, Pat Shermer will be facing his former team for the first time. And you both know that I'm from Florida, so I have to mention this. Jacksonville in the middle of September in a mid-afternoon game. That's going to be a brutal one. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be hot.
Hopefully, no storms too. There,
Yeah, good point.
Early in Tampa a couple of years ago, and there was pretty much a hurricane there in the second half. So hopefully things are a little bit better. Yeah, kind of a bummer starting out 2 on the road, especially if fans are back. I know they'll be itching to go to a Broncos game. Then they'll get that chance week 3 to face the number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson. Eric, what did you think of the start of the year?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Zach Wilson there, the second overall pick. It's likely that Trevor Lawrence, the first overall pick, will play in week 2 against the Broncos. And what I like is that Vic Fangio has a very strong record going against rookie quarterbacks. We know the defense is going to be the strength of this team, particularly early on. Defenses tend to gel more quickly than offenses. I think this unit, led by Von Miller, you've got Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons, Bradley Chubb. I mean, the names go on and on and on. I think this group could carry the Broncos early. And I don't think it's ridiculous at all to assume this team could start 3-0. It is going to be highly necessary because the schedule does get tougher as you go along. But I think you'd be feeling pretty good about yourself if you could get out of the month of September and have a head start at 3-0 rather than having to dig out of a hole like the last couple of years.
Be some unfamiliar territory for the Broncos there if they're 3-0. Okay, what's the toughest stretch of the schedule, Sydney?
Yeah, that's always the second thing I look for, Phil, when I get our schedule. Toughest stretch, in my opinion, is going to be week 4 through week 8. A couple weeks there, we start with the Ravens at home, and then we have Steelers, and then it's going to be our first divisional matchup against the Raiders. Luckily, that'll be at home too, but then it goes Browns for Thursday Night Football, and then it goes Washington. So you're going up against 4 2020 playoff teams within 3 weeks. So tough opponents back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I think that's a good point from Sydney there. You got 5 playoff teams on this schedule. You take most of them before the bye, but I look after the bye when 5 of your final 7 games are against division opponents. That's really going to determine where you end up this year and whether you make the playoffs. And I look at those final 3 games of the year where you're on the road against the Raiders, on the road against the Chargers, and then have to host the Chiefs to close the year. It's possible the Broncos will need to win 2 of those 3, or maybe even all 3, to make a push for the playoffs. And even though the Raiders and Chargers didn't make the playoffs last year, we know the Chargers surged with Justin Herbert. The Raiders have always played the Broncos tough, particularly when Denver travels there. Broncos haven't won a road game against the Raiders since 2015. So it's been a while. Hopefully it's overdue and they can make that happen this year. But I do look at those 3 divisional games to end the season.
And they also have a road game in December against the Chiefs too. So a tough finale there for the Broncos in December and January. Let's end with a fun note. Like, if you are a fan, what's the road game that you really want to go to this year?
For me, since I'm from Florida, like I mentioned, I'm excited to go to Jacksonville just to get some sun, and my family's only an hour away, so they'll be coming up for the game too. So that's my pick.
Okay, so a personal twist.
Personal, right.
Got it. Eric, how about for you?
Yeah, so I think going to Jerry World on November 7th, week 9, to play the Cowboys. Obviously, the last time the Broncos were there, just an incredible game, 51-48, back and forth. Peyton Manning, Tony Romo. If it's anything close to that, you're going to get your money's worth. But I just think seeing Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and then hopefully the Broncos offense has started to gel at that point as well. There could be a lot of points in that game, and just the atmosphere down there, Phil. Everything's bigger in Texas, and excited to see that place.
Yeah, that is one of the best environments in all of football. I don't think it gets enough credit for how loud it is. I mean, that place gets packed. There's standing room only areas. So that's definitely a fun one. I think that the Giants game, the season opener, it's the day after September 11th. There's probably going to be some sort of a ceremony or something there. Plus, I always think about food, so I would say going to New York would be great. Going to Pittsburgh to get a little Primanti Brothers or something like that. I think that might be the way that I tend to lean. And maybe like you, Eric and Sydney, maybe a game that the Broncos don't play too often in those places. So that's how I so. All right, the schedule is out. I know that everybody goes week by week. Is this a playoff team? What's your record? Any guesses here, Sydney?
Ooh, okay.
I put you on the spot.
I know you're putting me on the spot, Phil. I think we'll go 9-8, 8-9, one of the two. I think we'll start 3-0, like I mentioned at the beginning of the season. It's going to get a little shaky there, week 4, that long stretch, but that's going to be my answer. 9-8.
Yeah, I like that 9-8 pick. I do think they'll have the chance going into those final 3 games to push for an 11-7 record. And get into that conversation. 11-6. I'm adding too many games, Phil. But we got. I think they'll have a chance to push for the playoffs. But even though I think they'll fall just a bit short, I do think that taking a jump from 5 wins to 9 wins is a big deal. It shows that this offense has progressed. It shows that this defense has come together, and that you're on the right track moving forward. And who knows, maybe 9's enough to get you into the dance.
So you guys both go 9-8. I'll go 10-7. Okay, there you go. All right, that's going to do it for us. The Broncos slate is out. Have at it. Hopefully everybody thinks it's a good one for the Broncos, and we'll see what happens when they kick things off in September. That'll do it for us. For Sydney Jones and Eric Kalala, I'm Phil Moore.